Joe, you know what I just noticed?
What's that?
What I just noticed was watching the intro, because I never watch the intro. I always just share our show, but this is the first time I've already shared stuff. So the video of me in the intro is like 150 pounds ago. We got to get a new clip in there because your boy slimmed down a little bit. You know, like we got to change some things, you know?
I also have my really bad beard that I had for
Yes.
a couple of months that I will not be growing back at any point. Yeah, I don't really look up at the screen during the intro anymore. You and I look completely different because it's 2 years old. I'd have to make a completely new one, though. That's the only thing that's a little
Thumbs up in the chat if you want a new intro of Skinny Boy.
No. Don't volunteer me for that because I do not have time for that current moment.
We might need to
do the off season.
Yeah, we might need to do that during the offseason because I sure as hell don't have time either. Nevertheless, we're live. Welcome in, everyone. If you don't know who I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Joe, we got a lot to get into. We will get into rankings as those come out, as it is live right now. We will literally live react to these rankings. Joe and I will talk about Ole Miss and Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl, the Iron Bowl with Bama and Auburn, and if we have time here at the end, Vandy versus Tennessee. I love all of these matchups, man. Big rivalry week during Turkey Week.
Yeah, in this show, different than yesterday's show, because yesterday's show was all the games that had like the biggest implications. Right. But this slate of games that we're talking about here, not every matchup has a team that's in playoff contention. Yes. And every team is facing a team that could knock them out of playoff contention. So I'm really, really intrigued if this isn't the slate that we see an upset, if this isn't the slate that we don't see a insane game that results with an incredibly tight late finish. Maybe it is the Iron Bowl. Maybe it is the Egg Bowl. But I can already tell you right now that we will see some absolute chaos come from one of these three.
So last night I gave a prediction, Joe. That prediction being that my lock of the week was Georgia Tech, going in the favor of Georgia. I have an upset of the week.
Oh, no.
Actually, I'm not going to go full-on upset. The Iron Bowl is going to be outright chaos. I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it in the, oh, my God, Jalen Milroe just threw a touchdown in the back of the end zone to Bond, and they're actually going to go to the SEC championship. I think that we're in store for one of those Iron Bowls this year.
I really think that we are too, and I think that there's a lot of reasons to believe that is going to apply to this game. I'm assuming that when you say that you have a potential upset pick, you're not talking about this game.
I am.
Okay, do you want to get into it then?
Let's get right into it. Before we do, though, every episode's brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Go over to the App Store, download the FD Sportsbook app. Listen, this week, we're all going to be hitting on parlays, full off of turkey and cornbread dressing. Go over to FanDuel and do it. Joe and I are gladly partnered and powered by our good friends over at FanDuel. So, what you got to do this week, go over to the FD Sportsbook app, download it on your phone, get your bets in, parlays, futures, or just moneyline overall bets. Do it with our good friends over at FanDuel. We're proudly partnered and powered to be powered, and we're proud to be partnered and powered, the triple Ps, with our good friends over at FanDuel. So, Joe, yes, let's get into it. By the way, everyone do us a favor. Subscribe down below. That's all we ask. Just hit that subscribe button. We need it. We're trying to get to 30,000 by the end of the year here. Joe, the Iron Bowl is upon us here. Thanksgiving week is here, so is the Iron Bowl. And I said leading into this, which made us talk into it, I don't know if this Iron Bowl is not going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight when it comes between Auburn and Alabama. Auburn is being slept on. I understand their record. People understand what this game is, though. This Auburn team has the chance to go into a game with their biggest rival and do the biggest thing that would hurt them, keep them out of the playoff. This Auburn team, this Auburn defense is being slept on. How do you think this one's going down?
Alabama -5.5 point favorite on FanDuel, by the way. Blake, I think you make a really good point here. Ultimately, to jump ahead to the just straight up prediction, I think Alabama still wins. I think Alabama's going to be fine. I think that they go to the college football playoff. I think they go to the SEC championship game. But I do agree with you. I think that Auburn is going to challenge them. Every Alabama fan knows that no matter the year, Auburn is always going to put up a fight. And this year, Auburn's more effectively equipped to challenge Alabama than in recent years. The biggest reason is their defense. Number 1 in the country in EPA per rush allowed. Their front seven has been tremendous. Keldrick Falk is a guy that I'm very excited about for the upcoming draft. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But here's one part, Blake, that I think is just naturally going to be forgone when breaking this game down and a lot of people discussing it. Hugh Freeze is fired. Suddenly Auburn has a pulse. Suddenly Auburn can put up a lot of offensive production. Against Vanderbilt, we saw Ashton Daniels in the Auburn offense put up a lot of big plays. And I know that they played against Mercer, but Deuce Knight balled out when he stepped in. Blake, this is an astounding stat. 2 games of Derek Nix calling plays for Auburn. 1,100 total yards and 100 points. Previous 5 games under good old Hugh Freeze, 1,432 yards and 73 total points. Ashton Daniels had 424 total yards against Vanderbilt. Blake, this Auburn team is not void of talent.
Well, Deuce Knight came in there last week now.
Well, he came. Wait, did I say something wrong?
What do you mean? Well, I'm just saying are they going to Deuce Knight here?
No, they said that they're going to Ashton Daniels, and Deuce Knight could end up contributing. Sorry, I'm completely misunderstanding what you're saying.
You missed the joke. Continue.
I completely missed the joke. My point is, Blake, is that this Auburn offense has a lot more juice than I think people realize, and it feels like it finally figured out how to play to its identity. Also, imagine if they let Nix call plays a while ago and instead of it being Hugh Freeze, but that's a different issue.
Look, to your point, they lost in overtime to Vanderbilt, 45-38, the most points offensively that they've scored all year outside of the Baylor game. Then they scored 62 against Mercer. I mean, I'm not really diving into a lot of that last week. I thought they looked really crisp for what that's worth. Joe, every single week, you and I have one game. And in that one game, we talk about biggest strength versus biggest weakness. And we always get to a point in place where, okay, well, when we talk about it and preview it, about 9 out of 10 times, what has happened when you and I have done this is the biggest weakness got really exposed to the biggest strength. Like I think about, as an example, when we talked about in Georgia versus Ole Miss and the run defense, which, by the way, for Ole Miss has gotten a lot better since that game. We'll talk about that later. But I look at all of these big games that we've talked about in the SEC or Big Ten, and we've had this exact same scenario play out, and everybody's like, oh, my God, how is this team doing what they're doing? And you and I come in here on the recap, and we go, yeah, told you. I mean, it was the biggest strength versus the biggest weakness. This Auburn run defense is elite. They are that good. They're 11th in the – I shouldn't say elite. They're really, really, really great. They're 11th in the country in total yards rushing with an anemic offense at the beginning of the year. What we saw against Oklahoma, what we've seen every week, what we saw against Georgia, for all that it's worth, and a team that, quite honestly, offensively stunk, and ultimately Auburn broke. When it mattered, they had enough. This Auburn, hot take, this Auburn defense is one of the best in the country. And I think people say that and they're like, oh, there's no way. They are one of the best. Now, I understand that Vandy put 45 on them, but there was a lot of transition for DJ Durkin during that time. You all may remember that. You're going up against a rushing attack with Alabama that's 107th. Big-time strength meets big-time weakness. And I think it's going to keep Auburn in the game. Now, you look at their secondary, Joe, for Auburn. That's where things could get very hairy. So now let's flip it. Guess what their biggest weakness is for Auburn? Their secondary has been more leaky than a pipe in an old house that is rusty and broke. They're 98th in the country in total yards allowed through the air. It has been abysmal. You're one of the worst teams in the SEC in giving up passing yards. Joe, just to be a little honest with you, they're kind of more closer to Tennessee than they are some of these other top-tier teams in the front of it. But that goes to show you how good and elite that they've been at run defense. That's neither here nor there at the current moment. Hey, Bama, guess what? You can't run the ball. Auburn, you can't stop the pass. Joe, if I'm Bama, I get that you need to try to find a running game at some point. It ain't this week. It's not this week. You have weapons on the outside. Go and utilize them. Get this rhythm that you had back. Go improve it. The secondary has been very bad in a lot of key situations. Go attack it, because you trying to run the football this week, well, Joe, it's like me trying to fit in a Speedo. Just ain't happening.
I think that's a really good point. I think it's a really good point. Not the Speedo.
I know you don't want to picture me in a Speedo, but it's just the truth.
No, absolutely not. I would prefer not for that. But I think it's to your point. Here's the thing, though. We talked about that going into the Oklahoma game and how just because Oklahoma's front seven was really talented and really good at stopping the run didn't mean that it was going to hurt Alabama, because Alabama had survived by not running the football. I do think it's a concern to be had that while you're trying to figure out your run game, you now are matched up with arguably one of the best, if not maybe the best front seven, just statistically defense at stopping the run. They just are really, really stout at not allowing big plays. This isn't going to be the week that you find it. I think, to your point here, you're going up against a secondary that's been susceptible to giving up a lot of chunk plays to their opponents, facing far less dangerous receiving cores than the one that you have, and facing far less dangerous quarterbacks than the one you have with Ty Simpson. That is ultimately the biggest edge that Alabama has. Need to be aggressive, start taking shots, come out swinging, come out hot. One other thing to take us back to the Auburn side, where Auburn potentially has an edge. We saw Alabama struggle at protecting Ty Simpson against Oklahoma. And I do think that there's parallels to be had with the construction of both of these defenses and the success that they've had this year. This Auburn front seven's got 28 sacks on the year. They've been extremely disruptive. Is that a issue that arises again, like it did against Oklahoma? Do we see Ty Simpson get flustered? And he's done great under pressure. He's had tremendous poise. But do we see an issue where he fumbles the ball again and he turns the ball over in a key area? He's got to protect the football going up against a pass rush that has some dangerous dudes on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very, very good point there. And look, the Ty Simpson turnovers is in that same vein. Joe, he's turned the ball over too much. And he's been clean from throwing interceptions, but not fumbling the football when teams send pressure after him. Look, man, DJ Durkin, for all that it's worth, they're going to send the heat. This is their Super Bowl. They can keep you out of the playoff. And defensively, Joe, like as an example, you talked about that Oklahoma game. There's only 5 yards of difference in total rushing yards allowed per game between Oklahoma and Auburn. One is third in the country. One is tied for 11th. It's not like a massive thing separates them in that. I look at Auburn and say, listen, that you're going to have to lean in on that they try to find or attempt to find a running game against you because your secondary's been bad. You got to hope that the connections that have been iffy against P4 opponents the last month with Ryan Williams and Bernard continue. And quite frankly, you got to do some of the things that Oklahoma did in sending the heat after Ty Simpson. Now, I know that Oklahoma's got better corners. That's neither here nor there. But, Joe, offensively, this team, for what it's worth, the last 2 weeks has been able to lean on teams. Go figure. Go figure. They're getting the ball to their playmakers. Go figure. Joe, I just ask an honest question. What is this Auburn team really without Hugh Freeze right now? Now, we don't get a massive look at this, right? Like, we don't get a long time to look at what DJ Durkin could have made this team. But is Bama going to be able to find the connection that they've been missing the last month? Against South Carolina, against LSU, against Oklahoma, and now against Auburn. You have not been able to find it. Can you find it now? And if they do, Joe, I mean, just from their weapons alone, they're one of the more dangerous teams in the country. Now, do I think that they can win the whole thing with their running game the way it is? No, not really. But, man, I sit here and just say to myself one simple thing. Auburn, if you play around with them, will keep this close. This game historically, Joe, as we've seen for so many times in so many years, has been close. A bad Auburn team was a touchdown that came on 4th and 22 away with Jalen Milroe to win the thing. This is a better team with better athletes. I don't think that Auburn has enough to overcome what Alabama is looking in the future. I'm going to take Alabama to win. But you better get your playmakers the ball a lot because it is your biggest strength to attack this secondary when it matters most.
I think that's absolutely true. Again, overall here, we're predicting Alabama wins the game. This game has always been stressful. It's always been tight. One thing that I am very intrigued for, how does Deuce Knight contribute? Do they get Deuce Knight on the field? I actually would argue I don't really know why they're not starting Deuce Knight. I think that you've got nothing to lose.
Well, I think because, listen, Daniels almost knocked off a top 15 opponent in Vandy. Right? Like, I get the whole dude. You're trying to keep him out of the playoff. Now, if Daniels goes out there and he kind of struggles, fine, put in Deuce Knight. But I get what you're asking, but not for the Iron Bowl. Let's try to go up 7. Maybe. If you're going to do this, do it a couple of weeks ago. Joe, you're trying – this is the South's biggest rivalry, whether people want to admit it or not. The entire state is split. It's a big deal, okay? Go beat them and let them sit on the couch. Auburn would take the entire season and Hugh Freeze being fired, which they feel is a plus, if you knock off Alabama and keep them out of the playoff.
Well, I'm not suggesting –
it would all be a plus for them. Now, I get what you're saying about Deuce.
Yeah.
I just think Daniels did a lot of good – look, Vandy's not – we're going to talk about Vandy later. Vandy's not a bad team defensively, man. So Daniels did a lot of really good things there. Now, I know Vandy didn't really know what to expect, but it's just the truth.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting go to Deuce Knight as some sort of a just play the freshman to appease him. I thought that he looked tremendous, and the fact that he had 6 total touchdowns and over 400 total yards in that game, I think that at the very least –
really good.
Yeah, I know it's Mercer. I think at the very least that they should try to get him to contribute. I know that he and Daniels are both great athletes. I think Deuce Knight's a different type of athlete. Just get him on the field, run some Wildcat stuff, keep things confusing, just keep Alabama on their heels. Here's one last narrative I want to throw out there. I know that by the way, it's kind of funny that we're taking such an Auburn angle here, but it is really intriguing where Auburn sits. I kind of wonder what happens with DJ Durkin after this game. I don't think that they win. I don't think that the upset happens. If this game ends up being close, do you seriously consider interviewing DJ Durkin as a candidate? Well, I'm not saying that they haven't, but I would maybe reshuffle that list and look a little bit deeper at him if this game ends up being close.
John Summerall, let's say Kiffin goes to Florida or LSU, and Summerall does what the rumor out there is that he would prefer Ole Miss over Auburn. Hypothetically speaking, I think you got to give DJ Durkin a look because, quite frankly, you're a better team right now, and he's probably the only chance to keep Cam Coleman.
The difference between the way that they looked under Hugh Freeze and where they look now, it's not like we're talking about he took over and they played a solid game. They have been starkly different. They have been vastly different since Durkin took over. So I think it's worth bringing up. I don't think it's an asinine or ridiculous thing to throw out there. I know Auburn fans probably aren't excited by that notion. The promotion of the interim coach doesn't always work so well. I think that you can't ignore the results if this game ends up being within a score. Now, if they get dominated, I think we have a different conversation.
Listen, as someone who's been with a lot of interim coaches in his life, interim coaches are like the 5-hour energy shots, right? Like it's good for a little while. It's good for like an hour, hour and a half tops. Then all of a sudden that caffeine wears off. And then you're like, oh shit, I'm back in the same place. It's an adrenaline dump. Adrenaline dumps in college football can last for weeks. Look, we didn't talk a lot about Bama, but Bama's got to find their groove. Stella, you got to go get your groove back, baby. I know you're too young to remember that movie. Stella, get your groove back. But the bottom line here is you have been so close to being back on the groove that you were in the toughest stretch that you had where you kind of dominated. You lost it. It's like Peter Pan in the movie Hook. When you lost your marbles, okay, you couldn't find them. And you haven't been able to be – look, I'm talking about against P4 opponents. I don't care. I don't give a shit what you do against G5 FCS opponents. But it just gets to a place in time where can you find it? Joe, if they do, they're going to slaughter them because this secondary is not good. Yeah. It has not been good. But, however, I think this is the second best front seven you've seen all year. I think this is the fastest front seven that you've seen all year. Dude, DJ Durk, look, you can say Oklahoma.
Wait, I think Oklahoma's is. I gotta.
Not Ed Backer. No way.
Well, I guess they didn't have R. Mason Thomas, right?
No, Oklahoma they didn't. But R. Mason Thomas, I factor into that, even though he scooped and scored against Tennessee and looked great when he did it. Dude, their linebacking core is the fastest in the country. I don't care what anybody tells me. Debo Atkins and the boys have speed.
I think it's close to Oklahoma because Kip Lewis can fly too, man.
Not like Debo. Sorry. Want to bet? I'll bet you $1,000 right now when they both go to the combine, Debo smokes him.
I don't know. I'm not betting you $1,000.
Okay, because I am telling you, Debo and that linebacking core can fly. Listen, hold on, pause. LSU needs, for me, I mean this generally around the country, but listen, if DJ Durkin is let go, son, he is going to be the highest paid DC in the country next season.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, selfishly, I wanted him to go to Notre Dame. I've since been pushed back on that. That possibility.
And I get the whole DJ Durkin talk thing here. I get it. The thing at Maryland, I get it. Brother, his defenses have dominated the last 5 seasons. Not good. Joe, they're not been good. They're not like
elite. They've been elite.
They've been really freaking good. This dude can coach, man. And kids love him. As energetic as he is, look at his defense. Joe, what was the game 3 weeks ago? Or was it Vandy? They get a turnover, and I forget who it was that maybe it was a fumble or whatever. Maybe it wasn't Vandy. I don't remember the game. But they get a turnover, and they're running to the DC and handing him the football. By the way, your team sucks. It looked like your boy from the replacements. I got the ball. That's what it reminded me. But from Bama's standpoint, again, trying to get to that, I'm just saying, dude, they've missed it. The lack of Joe, I don't think Bama fans understand this. The lack of push is a problem in the interior. That's what's going to get them beat. Bama's biggest problem, again, has what been Auburn's biggest strength, even in pass rush, too. These interior dudes are dominating human beings. I think it's a tricky game for Bama. Rivalry included.
I agree. This is not an ideal matchup. Having to deal with this front, with your inconsistencies, with your offensive line and your run game, it is absolutely a legitimate challenge for them. It's going to be tough. I don't think that anyone should just look at their record and say, fired coach, they're shit, we're going to kill them, and we're just going to walk past them. There is a lot that goes into this game. And here's one thing, the other angle of this, because I know a lot of times fans love to do this when we're calling for a game to be close and it ends up being a blowout. If you dominate Auburn, I think that's strong vindication that you're a lot better than people realize. I think that's legitimate vindication to believe, hey, we've got everything back. If you blow them out by more than 2 scores, Blake, I would be juiced up going into the SEC championship game.
It's Indiana versus Penn State. Let me explain.
Yeah.
A team with a bad record with insane talent. I don't think people who in the chat, raise your hand of how many Auburn games that you've seen this year. Because I've seen a lot. Because I
watched a weird amount of them too. I'm like shocked by how many I've watched.
They are freaking good. It's Indiana versus Penn State. Like, oh my God, how is Indiana here? Brother, there's a lot of NFL dudes over there.
Right.
A lot. They got speed, brother. They can fly. When I think of Auburn, hold on. When I think of like the tradition of Auburn and as bad as they've been, I think about DJ Durkin's defense. They got the defense. It's time to find some offense. That's what I think about Auburn. All right.
Oh, by the way, we should probably just jump to the next preview because this is the dumbest thing that ESPN does. There's a basketball game that's not over, so they haven't put the rankings out yet. It's the dumbest thing that they do. All right, we got to wait for the basketball game then. So we should get to the next preview, and then we'll jump back over to the rankings when that happens.
Well, let's get to the next toxic rivalry.
Yes.
So the Egg Bowl is among us. I wonder if there's anybody really talking about the game this week with everything going on with Lane Kiffin. Joe, the real question is this Ole Miss team going to show up for their head coach in the Egg Bowl? That's the question going into this preview. What does our good friends over at FanDuel think? That's the number one thing I want to know. But number two, what do you think?
Ole Miss is a 7.5-point favorite over at FanDuel. Blake, I don't think that – I think it would be naive to just completely move past the obvious narrative with this. How distracted is Ole Miss with the Lane Kiffin coaching situation? How distracted are they with the coaching search? It was brought up in Ross Dellinger's article that it is notable the impact that it has had on the team. Like, I think that we have to factor that into this game. And I factored in when Lane Kiffin was up for the Auburn job and he was considering leaving for Auburn back in 2022 when they lost to Mississippi State when Mike Leach was there, 24-22. Now, this is not the Mike Leach team. This Mississippi State team is not as competitive as that team, but they're scrappy. They're better than last year. They have had spurts in which they have been explosive on offense. They've also had spurts where they've been extremely inconsistent, and they have an awful, awful offensive line. Like, I don't think that Mississippi State has the firepower to pull off this upset. I do not think that they have the offensive line to protect Blake Shapen. I do not think that they can get this job done. I just don't. But with everything that's going on and knowing how this could potentially impact the mental state of the team, this is another game that's very easy to predict that absolutely will be close.
You know, I've been thinking about this all week. And a lot has come out in reference to, man, Ole Miss is going to be distracted. This whole Lane Kiffin thing is going to play to them. They're not going to play that well. Mississippi State could upset them. All of this stuff. I think it's going to motivate them just as much. They have a chance to go to the playoff. They have a chance to do something that has not been done at that school ever. They have a chance to go out there and rewrite history for a school that has quite frankly been the bottom feeder for a long time. You know, we talk about stories, Joe, during NIL. We talk about stories about more parity. Ole Miss gets that chance. Vanderbilt gets that chance too. Who would have ever thought 3 years ago that I would come in here and say, Ole Miss is going to be not only a bona fide playoff contender, they might be a bona fide national title contender considering how the seeding happens. Joe, what happens if they kind of get in that Penn State realm of last year and they have a G5 team and maybe a Big 12 team, and you sit there and you say to yourself, well, man, if you win both of those games, you get into the Final Four. I look at this situation and say to myself, you could do something that no one in your school's history ever imagined. Screw everything else that's going on. So to Winadad Chambliss, to Keywan Lacey, to everybody inside that locker room, it is time to put your mouthpiece in, buckle up your chin strap, and go knock a motherfucker out. Because we keep talking about all of these different things when it comes to, oh my God, the game has changed. You know what hasn't changed? Joe, that locker room hadn't changed. What makes football great hasn't changed. Ole Miss, go out there, buckle up your chin strap, and go knock somebody out. Because the bottom line is you could do something that no one imagined you could do. Now go do it. Screw what's going on with Lane. Screw what your AD says. Screw anything. It is us against the world. Now go take it. You got your offensive coordinator that will still be there. Pete Golding will still be there. Go dominate them. You want to make a statement to the committee? Oh, if Lane Kiffin's gone, Joe, they might move Ole Miss back in the rankings. You go bust their ass. Don't give them a choice. Leave no doubt, as they say, Remember the Titans. Run it up, Herman. Leave no doubt. I'm tired of hearing about this Ole Miss team. You go out there and you take it to somebody. Now, that's not an analysis. That's for all of the Ole Miss media to put it in your hype video. I know what I'm doing here. Go beat their ass.
Well, first of all, the social team in Ole Miss is not going to do that after all of the lobbying you have done over the past couple of weeks for Lane Kiffin to end up at LSU. But here's the thing, Blake.
Well, you say that. I also said Bama's offensive line was softer than Swiss cheese, and they made the whole hype video about us.
That's true. Blake, everything you just said is fine and dandy in a fairy tale. But the problem is, Blake, is
you
that
let me go for 4 minutes only for you to call it a fairy tale. I didn't get you hyped up.
You got me fired up, Blake. But here's the thing, though. I don't know if it's possible to really fire up what's going on in this locker room. Blake, being in a locker room is a complicated dynamic. When you don't know about the future of what's happening with your head coach, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of doubt. Guys start talking. Some guys might be bought in and say, you know what, screw it, we're just going to finish the year. Other guys are going to be negative, and that negativity spreads. I'm not trying to call out and say that Ole Miss is flawed or they got a toxic locker room. That's not what I'm saying.
You've just hated on Ole Miss all year.
No, okay, now you're just – that's not the case. I think that, Blake, imagine showing up to practice and all of last week, the guy who's supposed to be leading you, the guy who's been the reason that you've made it this far, doesn't essentially think that you're good enough to stay. He thinks that he's better than you. That's how I think a lot of guys would feel about this. And I think there's a reason why Ross Dellinger put that in his article, because I think that there is truth to that. Maybe it's only 10 guys, but 10 guys spreads. I have a little bit of fear here.
10 guys spreads.
You know what I meant. I hope they're not doing that. I hope they're not doing that in the locker room.
You know, look, man, 10 guys are spreaded.
I hope that's not happening in the locker room. To get specific with this game, though, Blake, there is a clear advantage knowing that Ole Miss's offense has been as explosive as it has been this year, going up against a Mississippi State defense that is, quite frankly, near the bottom statistically, especially in their run defense, 126 in EPA per rush. One thing, though. You know who's 127th in that category?
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. Ole Miss
is what I don't understand. Can you explain this to me? Because we've had this argument, and I'm really asking for an explanation. Okay, I'm with you there. But they're middle of the pack in the country in run defense from a yardage overall per game standpoint. I get the attempts. What I'm saying is, yes, the yardage on that is fine, but when you look at the entire game, they're 53rd. You understand what I'm asking?
I understand that the reason why I prefer EPA, because when we're talking about total yardage, the context of a season, you might face a team that runs the ball 40 times. I'm using extremes here. You might face a team that runs the ball 10 times. A team might statistically do well because the teams that they're facing just aren't running the ball that much. Or for the vast majority, they face teams that don't effectively run the ball. EPA does a better job of factoring in when a team runs the ball that they're facing, do they produce successful plays when they're not supposed to? Do they allow opposing teams to produce big plays on the ground? Is just the very simple way that I look at it. are they susceptible to keep being gashed? So they might, in certain situations, be good at preventing a lot of yards. If they're poor in the EPA per rush category, it means that they're getting blown up for big plays. So when you face a team that can run the ball like Mississippi State, that's what factors in.
But it also tells me that if you have that big play on that one attempt, but the whole yardage standpoint is it's more here or there, but they're massive runs. Does that make sense? Because from a total yardage standpoint, well, I mean, they're top 30 defense in the country.
Mississippi State is or Ole Miss is?
Ole Miss is. They're 30th in the country in total defense. Their secondary is 22nd in the country in passing yards allowed. The truth of the matter is, yeah, I get what you're saying there. Have we been a little bit fugazi about how good this Ole Miss defense might be?
Well, this is what when we look at the specific context of games that they've had, Blake, I look back at some of their more troubling games. Georgia is the most specific one with all the big run plays that they gave up. Like, that's the one that really is stuck in my head, that they gave up.
But this ain't Georgia. Runs. But this ain't Georgia.
I know, which is why I don't think
a top 4 team against, like, I get it. Okay, look, I don't know what to say about this game because, listen, I try to give Ole Miss a pep talk here in the beginning of this. I just don't know how it plays out. If it plays out normal, I know, look, there's not another game in college football that's more toxic. Everybody wants to say Ohio State, Michigan. People want to say the Iron Bowl. BS. The most toxic relationship of a game that happens in the country to me is the Egg Bowl. Joe, the things that happen in the Egg Bowl could go into the Hall of Fame. The Egg Bowl should just all be in the Hall of Fame every single year. How good of a coach is Lane Kiffin when he's there? Did something happen on Friday morning on game day where they say, hey, Lane Kiffin is accepting a job to Florida or accepting a job to LSU, and these guys get wind of it, and they're like, yeah, okay, screw this guy. To your point, there is the opposite side of that. If the actual team that we know to be just shows up, Joe, I don't know if Mississippi State can keep up. That's the part for me. Like, I look at this and say, eventually, Ole Miss is going to run him out of the building. I think Chambliss has already done the unthinkable. I think he's going to do the unthinkable yet again. I think I do think they're going to come to play. Everybody's telling me no. Don't buy it. I'm going to go with my gut on this one. I think the real Ole Miss shows up for this one. Maybe after that, I don't know. But Lane is still technically there. I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give him hope here. In reference to Mississippi State, when I look at this, Joe, you got to run the football to your point. This team, that's their biggest weakness so far. You like to do it. You got to hit some of these explosive plays if you're Blake Shapen. Get Thompson the ball down the field, and let's end it.
Yeah, ultimately, I've got full faith that Ole Miss has every reason to win this game. If they're locked in, they're focused, there is a separation gap. I think that Kawan Lacey is going to pop off. He's going to do his thing. He's going to be too much for Mississippi State's defense to be able to slow him down. And we have seen numerous times this year where they have had issue after issue at trying to stop elite athletes like Kawan Lacey. I think that this is going to be an easy game for them. They're going to be able to control the time of possession, the pace of the game, and it should be in and out. It just all comes down to how locked in are they? How does this week of preparation go? You mentioned is there a rumor that leaks before the game? Because we've seen that happen time after time in the sport. No matter how patient people want to be, something always gets out at the worst possible time. We'll see what transpires here, but I'm kind of rooting for the fact that this game does have a nice layer of toxicity to it, more than it usually does.
Coaches got fired because players peed on a pylon and then got them back and they missed an extra point. Hashtag Elijah Moore. We saw a fat guy recover a fumble, and while they showed the sideline, the man is laying there waving at the camera. This is by far the most toxic. And Joe, all right, don't tell some of my relatives this. I will never miss an Egg Bowl, ever. Ever. It will be on the main TV this Saturday. The main Friday. The main TV. It is that fun of a game. So I'm going to take Ole Miss to win. I'm going to take them to cover. And I think they get the job done here.
I agree with you. I can totally see a world where Ole Miss covers, and I think that they will be able to keep them at bay. We still don't have the rankings, by the way, so we could probably just jump to Tennessee Vandy.
Boy,
they're doing all this BS, and then the rankings are going to be like slightly different from last year. There's going to be like one small movement, so it's probably not the end of the world.
Okay. Well, committee, you continue to suck. By the way, Hunter Yurchek needs to be fired.
As the committee chair?
Yeah. Well, as Arkansas's AD.
Yeah, they lost out on Eric Morris to OK State. I don't know if that's who they were competing with or if they were even in contention, but to let that happen, that's bad. Unless they get someone big.
Should we get to that? Do you want to get to that at all? Do you want to just do like 5 minutes on it?
If we have time, I do think that Tennessee Vandy is incredibly important.
Okay, let's get to that. Vanderbilt versus Tennessee, a game that can keep Vandy out of the playoffs potentially, or Joe, they could go 10-2 and get themselves and find themselves in the playoff here. When you preview Vanderbilt versus Tennessee, how do you see it going down?
Blake, on FanDuel, Tennessee is a 2.5-point favorite, which is shocking. So we can't sit here and talk about, hey, Tennessee's going to upset Vanderbilt. By a betting perspective, they are favored in this game at home. Blake, this game is going to be quite compelling because you have a Tennessee defense, a front seven that is quite stout, 35 sacks on the year. Their offensive line also has been extremely stellar, 14 sacks allowed. Going up against a Vanderbilt team that, as you alluded to earlier, is very underrated defensively. They have had a lot of performances in the run game where they have completely shut out their opponents. Bishop's going to have a tough time finding space on the ground. And on top of this, Vanderbilt has had recently two of its best offensive performances against Auburn and against Kentucky. And Diego Pavia leads the SEC in passing efficiency and yards per attempt. Blake, I think Vanderbilt wins this game. I'm just going to be straight up with you. I think that Vanderbilt's offensive success dealing with a defense for Tennessee who has been completely brutalized through the air. They can't stop a soul through the air. They got a good pass rush. They give up so many big plays. And I know that hasn't necessarily been Vanderbilt's bread and butter. That has not been the way that they have successfully moved the ball down the field. But over the past couple of games, Diego Pavia has been electric through the air. And I think the same thing is going to apply in this matchup where they're going to have an easy time completely embarrassing this Tennessee secondary. Oh, no. What are you going to say? What are you going to say?
There's a small chance that some popped off shit's about to happen. That's all I'm about to say.
In terms of the rankings?
No.
What is it pertaining to?
Let's move on here.
All right, go ahead.
Joe, when I preview Vanderbilt versus Tennessee, I look at a situation where I don't want to put a game in a bubble. Like, if this thing happens or doesn't happen, Vandy's going to lose. Can Joey Aguilar not turn the ball over? Can he play clean football? You're not a bad team. Joe, this is a good team in Tennessee. Can they find a way for their quarterback not to turn the ball over? Because let me tell you what Vandy's about to do to you. They're going to be one of the top teams in time of possession. They're going to keep the ball away from you. They're going to do misdirection. They're going to be downhill. You're not going to be able to run the football on them, which, Joe, who has? Maybe Auburn, but I mean, okay. This team has been really good. Joe, am I about to say that Vanderbilt, if Joey Aguilar continues to turn the ball over and be turnover prone, that Vanderbilt's going to find themselves backdooring this playoff here? Because that's where I'm leaning. Like, nothing else comes into factors for me when I have a guy in a big situation who turns the ball over. Cool, you didn't technically do it against Georgia a lot. You almost did. And then you did it against Bama. You did it against Oklahoma. Joe, every playoff team that he's faced so far, Either he has turned the ball over once, gotten lucky and the ball not get turned over, and you're going up against another one. Your biggest games, Tennessee fans, you're turning the ball over way too much. Can you run the ball on the run defense that, Joe, is top 20 in the country in yards per game on the ground? This tempo get to Vanderbilt. Listen, this has been a fantastic story with Vandy. By all logic and things that I think of this game, I just got to believe that weird stuff happens and that none of us predicted. And I actually ridiculed Diego Pavia for saying that they would be a playoff team. And he proved me wrong. He proved me wrong. So for that, I'm officially saying no more Diego Pavia hate from me. I'm on the bandwagon. Go seize what you said in the preseason. You know, we always forget what we talk about in the preseason. We laughed at the world laughed at Diego Pavia when he said, yeah, brother, we're a playoff team. I think we're a national title contender. Okay, well, a contender means you make it to the playoff for me. All right, you're in there, go contend for it. Go do it, brother. I'm on your bandwagon now.
I also really think, Blake, with this game, I understand that Tennessee had put out a really good game this past week against Florida. I understand that. I understand that they completely embarrassed a team that is a rival of theirs, and there is a lot of pride to be had with that performance. But, Blake, if I look at these two seasons for these two squads, I just feel like Vanderbilt has had numerous performances, especially in the last month, that make me believe that they are not only going to stress Tennessee, but are the worst possible matchup for Tennessee. I think that there's going to be a lot of blind faith in Tennessee that just because they dogged on Florida, that they're going to come in and do, maybe not dog Vanderbilt, but be able to get this job done and beat Vanderbilt at home. It is going to be one of the hardest road environments that they're stepping into for Vanderbilt. They struggled the last time that they went on the road in another difficult road environment when they traveled to Alabama. Like, quite simply, where I do not have ultimate faith is that I just do not think that this Tennessee defense has the bodies, especially in their secondary, to keep Diego Pavia in check. What helped Alabama at least accomplish that is they had a really underrated secondary. They had a really solid front, and they had some solid linebackers, but their secondary was able to completely remove any passing attack for the most part, and they were able to completely shut down Pavia against the run. I think it's going to be a very tall task for them to be able to do that this week, especially with the recent string of games Pavia has had.
Josh Heupel, talking about secondaries, Josh Heupel, you got to make this a 48-45 game. You got to make it a score fest. Joe, this secondary for Vanderbilt is really bad. Everybody's like, oh, they've been playing great. And since Texas, since Auburn, they've been massively exposed. Joe, what if I would have told you a month ago that Auburn was going to expose Vanderbilt's secondary? You would have been like, Vanderbilt secondary over Auburn? Joe, they're 109th in the country in passing yards allowed. If Joey Aguilar doesn't turn the ball over, the flip side of the coin that I just brought up earlier, you talk about rivalries and upsets and falling short. Dude, they can put up yards. They can put up points. Joe, Tennessee, for what it's worth, they're fourth in the country in scoring offense. Like them, love them, or hate them, they can score a lot. If I'm Heupel, I'm going full old school tempo, and I'm trying to score as many points as I can. Like, I'm going full Hendon Hooker on their ass. I'm going full McCoy on their ass. I'm going full everything that Josh Heupel is known for. This secondary is bad getting sideline to sideline. Thanks, Steve Sarkisian, for pointing that out to America.
Yep.
They are very bad in their safety room getting side. Now, you try to run the ball on them, they're going to knock your block off. They're downhill. Kind of reminds me of Notre Dame a little bit, to be honest with you. Like old school Brian Kelly, Notre Dame. They're big in the middle. They're really tough. Safety's downhill. But you know what? You can kind of get sideline to sideline on them. It's not a shot to you. It's a shot at Brian Kelly for what it's worth. Bottom line is for me, Joe, I think Vandy is going to win. But, man, this one's going to be really close. I feel like I could wake up tomorrow and pick Tennessee. Like, I think this one's going to be tight. I don't know how this one goes.
The line on this game, the over-under on this game on FanDuel, 65.5 points. I think that's the other part with this. You pointed out the Vanderbilt secondary has also been quite porous. They're 128th in EPA per pass allowed. Part of me kind of wonders, though, does this game play out like the Oklahoma game?
Oh,
because Vanderbilt's run defense is really, really solid. It's very solid. If Aguilar turns the ball over, gives Vanderbilt a short field, this is not an offense that you want to give a short field to. If he has a turnover, does that set up a similar performance in which he throws, has multiple critical errors, and they're chasing, and they're trying to play from behind? Here's a really interesting stat that I found coming into this. Tennessee is 1-3 when Aguilar has 35-plus pass attempts. And under Josh Heupel overall, Tennessee is 3-7 when his starting quarterback has over 35-plus pass attempts. So the big key here is that they got to get the run game going. They got to get Bishop going. They got to get everything flowing on the ground early, because the minute that they have one bad play, they turn the ball over like they did against Oklahoma, and the momentum shifts, and they start chasing, and he starts throwing every single play, that there's quite literally statistical proof to show that they are not equipped to survive a game like that. That to me is like, how by halftime, I think Blake will have an understanding of how the game's going to transpire. I think that we're going to have a really clear picture on if Tennessee is behind and they have to jump their way back in, they're down by 10 points. That will set them up for a doomed outcome, because, again, this season they have failed when they have been placed in those spots.
I am really containing something right now. No,
okay. Tell me after.
Well, Dellinger is reporting that Florida has started interviewing other candidates.
Oh. That's interesting. That's interesting.
So, do you hear this?
Yeah. Yes, I hear that.
I have 412 text messages at the current moment.
Is that even the peak of the
I haven't read them. I haven't read them. So I'm just, cautiously getting a little bit optimistic here. So I'm sorry for my panic. To wrap up my thought on this one, Joe, I just think Aguilar's going to turn the ball over too much. I think you are who you are. So give me Vandy. Can Vandy get in the playoffs? That's just going to be the ultimate question here. All right. Do we have these rankings?
They're starting to come out now. We're probably not going to get them in time. So if maybe we want to hit the
super chat that we have.
Chat, yeah.
Titan sends with a $2 super chat, says if Bama loses, a 10-2 Utah should be in. After giving up 400-plus rushing yards last week.
Well, here's also the just general problem with that. BYU has the head-to-head win. So Utah is not going to get the edge in that regard. So it just – they're not in a position where they're going to be able to jump. They're sadly on one of the worst positions, Utah. They're on the outside looking in. There's really not many paths that get them into the college football playoff. There's like 4 or 5 other teams that are going to get brought up. Miami's going to get brought up first. Michigan's going to get brought up depending on what happens this weekend. BYU obviously gets thrown into the mix. And then the other part with this is even if Alabama loses, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that they're completely taken out of the playoff picture. And then what do you do with Vandy? Because Vandy lost the head-to-head and they'd have the same exact record.
That's where I was about to go. I don't think you can put Utah in over a Vandy. I don't.
But would you put Vandy in over Alabama, though? I think you'd be required to keep Alabama in even if they lost. No, actually, wait, no, they wouldn't have the same record.
Well,
they'd have 3 losses.
They'd have 3 losses. But my argument to that, even like, well, hey, you put Notre Dame in over Miami, and they have a head-to-head.
Right.
So, I mean, like, what we argued about this last week. Weeks don't matter, remember?
So I think to that point, then you would probably, you probably would put Vandy in over. Well, actually, here's the thing, though. Rankings as they're coming out, Vanderbilt's at 14, Utah's at 13. So they kind of just did draw a line. If they beat Tennessee, they'd have another ranked win. They probably would leapfrog them, and they'd probably leapfrog Miami as well.
All right, you got 14 or 10 through 25?
No, it's still we're still stuck at 12. So I don't.
Dang it. All right, well.
I know these asshats are. I mean, that's so stupid, man. How does the College Football Playoff Committee allow for college basketball, November college basketball, to impact how the rankings are released and when they're released?
Because they want to be on ESPN and they want the rankings or ratings or whatever. I mean, it's the reason that we go at 6 o'clock every night. It's because when people are most on YouTube.
It's a fair point.
I mean,
I guess we'll.
Yeah. Joe, you know why I've never moved my AY show from 7 o'clock ever? Because it's 7 to 8 is the most clock time where people watch YouTube around the world. So yeah, I'm going to keep it there. I get it. I mean, because the rankings don't really matter. You're going to react to it how you're going to react to it.
Yeah. BYU's at 11, Miami's at 12, Utah's at 13, Vandy's at 14.
Gross.
They haven't put anyone else out yet.
They're doing Miami dirty.
All right, well, we probably could just wrap up because I don't think we're getting this top 10. The top 10 will probably come out right when you're starting your show.
Damn, I'm sorry. Well, we can do something. You want me to just come back later?
No, what we got? We're going early. So we're going early tomorrow morning. We're going at 11 Eastern, 10. Yeah, we can hit at the beginning of tomorrow's show.
See you tomorrow. Y'all have a great night. Peace.